Hello, Sam Neill fans and budding paleontologists. It's time for my Jurassic Park rankings. Not one of my favourite franchises, I'd say, but it's still up there. Probably second tier for me, but at the top end of the second tier. Not that I've written lists for such things. Sentimentally, it's an important franchise for me because I went to see the original film at the cinema when I was just 13. My dad took me. Just the other night, I went to watch Jurassic Park Dominion with my 11-year-old son, so the whole thing has kind of come full circle for me. I've gone from being the small boy going to the cinema with his dad to now being the parent myself. So yeah, it was a weird feeling being sat in that cinema seat the other night with my 11-year-old son. The other thing to say about this franchise is that I believe there's no weak films out of all six, which is quite a rare thing, I think. Even the two franchises that I would call my favourites, James Bond and Halloween, weak films in both of those franchises. But Jurassic Park, no, I think even the film that is bottom today is a pretty decent watch, just with a few little minor flaws in it. So if you disagree with my list, just bear in mind that I did have trouble separating these films. But hey, let's dive in and find out which film I have in the bottom spot in sixth place. So a bit of controversy already, maybe. Steven Spielberg's second Jurassic Park film is bottom of the barrel. I must stress again, though, I do like this film, even though it's come bottom. It does suffer a little bit from the fact that Sam Neill and Laura Dern didn't come back. I mean, this was only the second film, and already they'd gone off to pastures new. It does help, though, that Jeff Goldblum was willing to step up into a lead role. It kind of reminds me of the Tremors sequels a little bit, where you don't get Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon, but Burt Gummer's there to at least mitigate the situation a little bit. My other problem with this film, if I've got any, would be the ending. Now, when this film came out, I can remember reading reviews in the newspapers that talked about how the end for this involved a dinosaur trekking through San Diego, and that sounded great for me. I thought to myself, oh, this could be like the situation in Predator 2, where the creature goes from the jungle into a more urban environment. That could be really interesting. But the reality of it wasn't that at all. It felt a little bit shoehorned in, the ending that you get for this. I just don't think they had enough time at the end of this movie to properly do the dinosaurs in a city thing, and it was just kind of lame. I think they should have just had the whole film on the island, and it would have been much better. Plus, Pete Postlethwaite's got this great character in this film. He plays a kind of bounty hunter, and because they go for the ending that they do, Postlethwaite's character just kind of gets sidelined a little bit. But on the whole, still enjoy this. It's got some great sequences, like with the what's that people carrier thing? What's it called? That when it dangles off the cliff. That whole part of the film is absolutely great. You get some great deaths. The storyline is pretty decent. It's good for a film that's bottom of the ranking for the franchise that it's in. It's a very, very good film. It was very, very close between this one and The Lost World for bottom position. I think what might have just swung it in Jurassic Park 3's favour is Sam Neill. I mean, Alan Grant is my favourite character in this franchise, and his persona absolutely keeps this film above the mediocre line. I mean, essentially, this is just a dinosaur horror film in a jungle without anywhere near the careful, intricate craft of, say, the first movie, but it's enjoyable, and it's a hard film to remember. I've seen it 3 or 4 times, and every time I watch it, sort of every 5 years or so, it always feels like I'm discovering the film anew. And if a film is hard to remember, even by dumb luck, then that's definitely a benefit for it, because I always enjoy this one, and I never know what the hell's coming next. One of the very, very few downsides to it is the middle-aged, affluent couple who pay Grant to go to the jungle. I don't like their characters. I don't like the casting of them. The mercenaries they bring with them don't really offer much, but Alan Grant just holds the whole film up, and it's fine. There's a great sequence with pterodactyls in like a valley with some metal walkways and things, and I think this one is really enjoyable. It's probably the most basic of all the films. I think it might be the shortest as well, but I'm just about going to give it the nudge above Lost World to come fifth. This is the second one that I saw at the cinema. I didn't see 2 and 3 at the cinema. Those films came out around about the time of my A-levels, my uni years, and I was a little bit distracted by life, shall we say. But by the time this one came out, I was a lot more settled, and I was going to the cinema more often, and it was a big breath of fresh air, this film. Visually, it's possibly the best looking film in the entire series, though I guess fans of the original might have a problem with me saying that, but the park in this looks absolutely terrific. It was a great idea to bring back the theme park story from the first film and do it again, but have the park open. I thought that was absolutely fab. But the dinosaurs in this one are top notch. And the CGI and the special effects had come on so much between Jurassic Park 3 and this one. It was absolutely worth them doing this massive gap between the third and the fourth film, rather than just press on with a whole bunch of Jurassic Park movies in the noughties, because at times it feels like the dinosaurs are right up Chris Pine's arse in this film. It's just seamless, but by this point. I like his character, by the way. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Very similar character, I think, to Chris's character from Guardians of the Galaxy. I like Bryce Dallas Howard's Claire. I think the two of them have really good chemistry. I like that rolling ball thing that allows the visitors to sort of roll around the park. That was a good idea. And I always liked the water container thing right in the middle of the park with that one aquatic dinosaur that kills the female agent. That was really fun. The whole film is fun, and when I watched this at the cinema, I think it was probably the first time I'd watched a Jurassic Park film in about 10 years at the time, but it really brought the franchise back into my orbit. I enjoyed it a lot. This one I didn't see at the cinema for two reasons. Partly I was a little bit influenced by the mediocre reviews that came out. Shame on me for still buying into critic reviews at my age. Also, my oldest son wasn't quite old enough to drag me along to the cinema to see it, as he would eventually do so for Jurassic Park Dominion. But when I eventually saw Fallen Kingdom at home, I was really impressed. I was like, wow, why didn't I just go to the cinema and watch this? It's sort of a film in two halves. The first half, or the first act, is more your traditional sort of Jurassic Park fare, but you get this amazing scene where this volcano erupts and all the human characters and the dinosaurs are both sprinting side by side to get off this island, despite what I just said in the Jurassic World section, by the way, about CGI being much improved by the time they got to the second trilogy. It is straining at the seams a little bit for this chase down the hill. There are one or two little moments that are a little bit ropey if you look very closely, but still, on the whole, what an amazing little sequence that they pull off with that. That would have been a great thing to have at the end of the film, never mind near the beginning. And that moment where the characters are just going away from the island on a boat and you see that dinosaur whining on the dock because it knows it's going to burn to death, that had me. I mean, the first and to date only time in my life I found myself welling up at the plight of a CGI dinosaur. What has my life come to? But that's effective movie making, you know. The second half, though, is where this film scores its big points in terms of getting it into the top three today, because it's like a dinosaur film in a haunted house almost. I'm being a little bit dramatic with that, but if you're the sort of person who is usually a horror fan and you just kind of occasionally dip your toes into the Jurassic Park films, which is how it is for me pretty much, then you can't not like the second half of this film. There's chases down corridors, there's lots of deaths and suspenseful scenes in tightly knit spaces within this mansion, and it's just really, really enjoyable. And this film almost came in the top two for me, but as it is, it's third out of six, and definitely one of the most underrated ones in the franchise, I'd say. In the intervening years between Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, my son became a massive Jurassic Park fan. I mean, I like the films, but in a more casual, relaxed way. Even though I'm making this video today, it's probably going to be years before I make another Jurassic Park related video. Even when they make the seventh film, hopefully there'll be a seventh film, I still might not do another rankings at that point. I might wait until they've done an eighth film just to make the idea of doing another video worthwhile. But my son absolutely loves this series. He's read both Michael Crichton novels. He's seen all the films like several times. He knows all the characters inside and out. And he was absolutely the driving force behind me and him going to the cinema to see this, whereas on occasion at the breakfast table last week, I was kind of like, well, don't you think that Top Gun Maverick trailer looks pretty good? You know, we've got to consider that as well. And he was like, no, it's got to be Jurassic Park Dominion. And he was absolutely right, because I don't know why I keep doubting that the latest Jurassic Park film will not match up to the previous ones, because it always does, and this occasion was absolutely no different. I really enjoyed this film. I love the fact that they bring back Alan Grant and Ellie and Malcolm. Not only that, but mix them with all the new characters we've got to know from Jurassic World and Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom, and it's sort of cool because all these characters are not immediately put together. You have to wait for the end of the movie. The chase sequence in Malta, if you've not seen this film, absolutely stunning. I was just on the edge of my seat for that. And the third act of the film is great. And again, it sort of goes down a little bit of a horror avenue. The end of this feels a lot like a Resident Evil movie almost, with your evil organization doing experiments, and you've got like biolabs and hazmat suits and things and white corridors and underground trains and stuff. So these later Jurassic Park films, they are incorporating a lot of sort of horror elements, and that's really just making me more and more of a fan of the series as the years go on. But me and my son were in such a good mood walking home. There are so many great scare scenes in this film. I mean, we were listing them all off as we were walking home and running out of digits to count them on. For me, it is the best film in the trilogy, this second trilogy. I know the critics haven't seen it that way, but I just have to think that they're just not really fans of the franchise. And if you're not a fan of a franchise, then sitting through a 2.5 hour film is going to be difficult. But me and my son are fans of the franchise, him more than me, but I call myself a fan, just about, I think. And this film was absolutely terrific, but it's not my number one. Let's now find out what that is. I could make the argument that there's possibly more exciting content in Jurassic World Dominion than the original Jurassic Park. But I think overall Jurassic Park is a more satisfying film. It's definitely got a better story. It's got a better paced story. Pretty much all the films after the original, they do often have a problem of just trying to gallop through as much action as they can get through, whereas the first film really paces itself in such a great way. When you think of that car winding its way through the park at night, it's like time slows down. Spielberg just really knows exactly how long to spend on all that stuff, and you, the viewer, find yourself wanting the film to speed up to get you out of these high tension moments, and you're just kept there as like cars are falling through trees and dinosaurs are just coming through the trees at night, and maybe they'll get through the electrical fences. It's just a brilliantly well-made film. Somehow Spielberg got it a lot more right the first time around than he did the second time around. I'm just not sure his heart was fully in it for the second film, but this first one, absolutely spot on. You get most of the classic characters in this first film. Sam Neill as Alan Grant is absolutely fantastic, and a lot of the ideas that you see constantly pop up and become repetitive throughout the films, like dinosaurs turning up to save human characters by fighting other dinosaurs. That was done for the first time here. It still felt quite fresh here. You know, velociraptors being the big bad sort of thing. That was all. That all originated from this film. And I think also another deciding factor for me in putting this one top is the fact that it was the first one that I saw. That it was the original film. If you were around in 1993, then you'll remember just how much dinosaur mania there was at the time. And for a teenage boy, it was very exciting. You couldn't not get swept along by it. I mean, you couldn't go to McDonald's without having a box of food with dinosaurs on the side of it. You couldn't go to the bus stop without seeing a poster for the film. If you were old enough at the time and you went to use a condom machine, chances are a packet of condoms would pop out with dinosaurs on the side of it. Dinosaurs were everywhere, but this film was absolutely worth seeing. In my opinion, it's probably one of Spielberg's best films, probably deserves to at least be in his top 5. And a lot of horror fans wouldn't go along with this, but I think this is a better film than Jaws, personally. Ooh, controversial opinion, but definitely for me, this film trumps Jaws, though probably not by a lot. But in terms of today's video, it is the best Jurassic Park film for me. Do let me know your list in the comments, and I guess we'll wrap it up here. So until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.